You're listening to Small Business Talk with Jerry. Sit in on great conversations with entrepreneurs who risk everything chasing the American dream.
Hey everybody, Jerry here with Small Business Talk with Jerry. Another episode. Today we have Randy Stalker with us, author of Hugs Help. He's got quite a story and quite a history of small business, fountain of knowledge and information, but a really touching story to go along with it. So give Randy a couple minutes to introduce himself, let you know who we're working with today.
Thank you, Jerry. I appreciate that. The story is sad. On July 22nd, 2003, my mother, my 19-year-old daughter, Janelle, and my 9-year-old daughter, Amy, were killed by a distracted semi-truck driver who was speeding and reading a book. So what I do today, I am an author of the book Hugs Help, and I'm also a professional speaker on the topics of loss, grief, and resilience. I offer 2 presentations. One for businesses is called From Grief to Gratitude, Navigating Loss and Grief in the Workplace. And then the second one is called Understanding Loss as a Griever, as a supporter, and as a friend. So that's what I do now. I am a small business owner. I've owned 6 different businesses over the 40 years since college.
Sure.
Some good successes, some bad successes. So I'm anxious to talk a little bit more about them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we moved to Rochester about 7 years ago, helping for grandkids.
Okay.
And our son gave us twin grandsons
Oh, fun.
about 3.5 years ago. So I talked about a tough life and a good life. What's a good life now?
Yeah, good. So, we have our first grandbaby coming in May, so a few months
Congratulations.
away. Yes, so first one. We made it a while. Well, so where was your first business? Where did you start? What were you doing when you decided to start your first business? Maybe start there.
Yeah, we were living up in Plymouth, Minnesota, and my best friend there loved technology, loved the computers, loved the internet, and was always playing with it. And one day we started talking. We needed to start an e-commerce business, which there really weren't too many e-commerce businesses back in 1996.
Yeah, that's early.
And so we put 4 people together. Carl was the brains of the operation. We had a programmer, we had an admin person, and then I was the salesperson. And basically, we put small businesses on the internet and let them sell their stuffs.
Okay.
The business was called It's a Mall World.
Oh, that's cute.
Okay. And it lasted about 18 years, and then a couple of the partners died.
Oh.
Okay. So I lasted about 6 years with it, and then I sold my portion of the business back to Carl and the other 2 guys.
Sure.
So yeah, it was interesting. I love talking about it. It was fun to be sort of a leading edge back then.
I was gonna say, because then we didn't have GoDaddy. There was no cookie cutter type cut and paste website and Amazon and any of these kinds of helpers in that sense, or Wix is the one that we use for our e-commerce now. Yeah. And I don't want to say it's point and click, but it's close.
Yeah, 2 of our guys were just really smart. They would have to program everything we did.
Had to code it all. Wow.
So it's changed an awful lot in 30 years here.
Yeah. Well, I listened to when Elon Musk talks about PayPal in the beginning, they would have it up during the day, and then at night they would shut it down and code all night, and so it could be back up in the morning. And yeah, it's just, crazy stories of that early on, especially now when you look how spoiled we are. You can run your website from your phone.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Okay, so how many did you get? A lot of, so you didn't actually sell anything yourselves in that you just sold the service to bring other businesses so they could sell their product.
That's correct. Yeah, we had 50 to 60 small businesses, a lot of gift items. Sure. Way up in northern Minnesota is where we're based at.
Okay. Was it local businesses? Geographically that were on
they were
site?
all local businesses. Yeah.
How
local,
great is
small,
that?
Yeah.
Small.
It was fun.
That's the whole premise of our podcast is, how America's built on the back of small business. I don't know that until you're in business, I don't think people really understand how many people are employed by small business in comparison. You look at the big box stores, there's not a ton of people that work full time at the big box stores and just that's their only job, and they're able to support their family, and it's more like a part-time, lots and lots of part-time jobs and lots of part-time incomes from it. Or it's one spouse makes decent money, good money, and then the other spouse can work in a big box store as kind of a side hustle almost. I mean, I hate to call it that, but yeah. So that's so. What was business number 2?
Business number 2 was in Jacksonville, Illinois.
Okay.
And there was a bookstore that went out of business in town. It was a town of about 40,000 people. And I thought the town needed a bookstore. And I thought they didn't run it very well in that town.
Sure.
So I bought their assets. We opened up a spot in a totally different location. And we added both new and used books to it.
Sure.
A lot of people can't afford new books.
Yep.
So I was in Jacksonville, Illinois. I made a big mistake there, Jerry, and a lot of small business owners do.
Yes, indeed.
You've heard location.
Yep.
I picked a crappy location.
Oh, no.
My first business. It about put me out of business.
So in a bookstore, you're looking for foot traffic, I assume?
Yes.
Is that really what? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I thought my advertising would draw the people to the bookstore. It really didn't work that way.
No.
Okay,
No.
we were about half a block off of the main traffic area.
And that was enough.
It was enough.
That was enough.
So after about 8 months, we moved the whole business right on to the main traffic area. And business just boomed. It just took off.
Half a block. Isn't that crazy?
Half a block.
Half a block. That's a great story. I'm gonna use that. So I'm gonna put your name in lights on that one but I mean that because we do talk about location. We do say that all the time, and I don't know how many people would give a half a block credence.
I do.
Yeah. Well, that's why I thought a good friend of mine owns a small coffee shop, and they have like desserts and cakes and pies and things like that. And that was her big thing was she didn't want to. She says you can't make a little coffee shop with as many as are around now. You can't make that a destination. It has to be en route. It has to be. You have to have that foot traffic to make it work. And so that's why I thought bookstore, I could see that being very similar and even being maybe strategic on finding a coffee shop or something to be next door or close by. Yeah. Maybe.
Anymore, you need more than just one thing too.
Yeah.
Okay, we had the bookstore. We opened a second bookstore in Quincy, Illinois.
Okay.
Okay, it's right across from where the Lincoln Douglas debate took place.
Oh, wow.
And we called it Great Debate Books.
Clever.
And there was I was part of the downtown community in Quincy, Illinois, and they were looking for businesses to come. And there was a 3,000 square foot store in a good location.
It's a big store.
I met with the guy that owned it, and he says, "Make me an offer." So I made him an offer. He accepted it, and we put our second bookstore in there. First one was closed.
Okay.
So we only had one at a time here.
Okay, one at a time. Yep.
But it was in downtown area, right on the corner, a lot of traffic. Added a coffee shop.
Smart.
Okay.
Yep.
Added sandwich and added breakfast. So we expanded a little bit.
Yep.
The secret to success of a small business is it's really community involvement.
It is.
In a small town, you really have to let people know who you are, what you do, and how you can help them.
Yep.
Okay. Now, my wife ran the bookstore. I always had to have a real job with a real paycheck.
Sure, right.
Okay. A lot of small businesses are like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But my job was to go over there and get involved in the community and the Chamber of Commerce and the Rotary. Then I'd go to the bookstore and I would just sit down and drink coffee with the clients.
Yep.
Just made them feel at home, and they would come back time and time and time again.
Yep. Find that common ground and give them something comfortable, right?
Take care of the client. They're going to be yours forever.
Yep. Well, they're yours to lose.
Yours to lose.
Yep.
Price doesn't really matter. It's all about service.
It's all about service. I had lunch today with a friend of mine, which you know, Dale. He just sold his business to Jim. And so met with them because we're going to do some work with them through one of my other businesses with the clothing line and some of that. But they used to do clothing, and they're going back into just mainly print, and then they're going to outsource the clothing. So we're throwing our hat in the ring, and I think we came to I think we've got a pretty good arrangement worked out. But it's fun listening. Jim was talking about he's in insurance, and he started in 2011, and now he has all these. He bought up agencies, and we talked about how that doesn't happen overnight. We related it to driving up a hill. It doesn't seem like that big a hill until you look back and you see all behind you. It's like, wow, this is impressive. And you, sometimes as a business owner, you lose sight of that because you're doing it all. And all of a sudden you're like, slow down a little. Remember, take things at your pace so that you do them well. Be above average in that sense, and show your clients that they matter. And it's always hard when you have the phone's ringing and you've got a client in front of you. That's a lesson I've always told folks, like, you be polite to the client in front of you because he knows your phone's ringing. The guy on the phone, he doesn't know there's a client in front of you. So you got to make that phone call the priority. And then you work that out as you go, whether you can call them back or do we just deal with it right here. But that, like I said, keep those little things in mind, that one's aware of the other is not aware of the one. So different things like that.
A good customer wants you to stay in business. They want you to be successful.
Right.
So they're going to work with you as long as you take good care of them.
Right.
Yep.
And when they watch you, they know that tomorrow someone else will be standing in front of you, and it'll be them on the phone.
Yep.
And most people, like I said, there's exceptions to every rule, but most people, like you said, they get that, and they want you to be successful.
That's right.
Yep. That's I had a good customer of mine. I had referred her out to someone, which I do often because there's a lot of things that we don't do at the auto shop. And she called me to tell me that she had a horrible experience with who I sent her to. And I assured her that I've been sending folks to him for about 12 years, and I've never had this phone call before. And I told her I didn't, and I said, I don't tell you this to discount your experience. I just want you to know that had I had these phone calls, I would not have sent you there, So I said, I don't know what's going on, but I said, I'm going to take a minute and make a phone call. I mean, he's a personal friend of mine. So, and I asked her, I said, have you talked to him? Well, I talked to a gal. And I'm like, okay, well, there's a gal that works there. I'm sure, obviously, she talked to her. I'm not aware of a gal working there, so I don't know who she is. So I said, but did you ever ask for, and I told her the name. I said, the name of the owner. I said, have you ever asked for him? Because he works there, too. He's like me. He's a working owner. And she's like, no, I didn't. But she said she was going to tell him. I'm like, I'm not going to take that. But I'm not going to take that at face value. I'm going to call him and see. And I did call, and he said that as of yesterday was the first time that he had heard of this and been getting involved. Yeah, he said, but she called you? I was like, this has been going on for almost 6 weeks. And he's like, no. Talk to your gal, because this has been going on. I was told by my customer it's been going on for 6 weeks. Now, somebody's not telling the truth. So you're going to have, this is on you now.
That's right.
But, but he said, but he's like, well, and he apologized to me over and over that he embarrassed me, or his business embarrassed me personally. And I was like, we'll get through that. I just want you to know, in the 12 years we've been referring back and forth, I've never had this. So fix it. Figure it out.
It's part of being a strong business owner. You really need to want feedback, good or bad feedback.
Right.
And you need to ask people like Jerry to say, hey, if you hear something going on, please call me so I can fix it, so I can address it.
Right.
Sometimes as business owners, we don't want to hear the bad stuff.
Right.
But you can't get any better unless you know how you can do better.
Right. You can't, if you don't know the problem exists, you can't fix it. And yeah, there's so many things that every one of us, I don't care how good a person you are, I don't care how smart you are, there's all kinds of things that we'd rather just kind of lift it up and sweep it under the rug, But at the end of the day, you can think that all you want, but at the end of the day, you got to deal with it. If you are the one that sweeps it under the rug, you won't own that rug very long. That rug will disappear. So obviously 2 bookstores. So you enjoyed the bookstores.
We did. We had a lot of fun, met a lot of great people, met a lot of other authors across the country. And it's just a fun business, and with a coffee shop as well. Just a great way to know people, and we felt we were helping the community because there was not another bookstore in town.
Sure. So how big is Quincy? Now you said 40,000 people in the first town.
Quincy's also about 40,000 people.
About the same.
Yeah, they're both about the same size.
I met last night with a client. We went to a local coffee store, a little coffee shop out by north of Rochester. we roll in, and there's three of us. It was the business owner, his dad, he's a young guy, and his dad, and then myself, and we're going to do some logo work for them and maybe some apparel and vinyl on their trucks, that kind of thing. Little marketing, but they want a good logo. So I want to sit with them and get an idea of what they wanted,
Sure.
and more importantly, try to find out what they want that they don't know they want, and see if maybe I can sneak something in there that will wow them, and really kind of put them on a new page. And we always do that. We do logos. We follow exactly what the client asks for, of course, and then we don't charge any extra, but we'll do one or two extras that are just off the books, and just something weird. And we've sold a few of those logos, but we've also used a few in other spaces for that business. But anyways, we're sitting up, and there's two young gals, making coffee, and an older gentleman behind the counter. As they're making our coffee, he comes up and he takes off his apron, and I'm assuming he's an owner or manager. I'm not 100%, but he was definitely in charge. He says, "Say, when it clears out in here, if it quiets down and clears out, you guys want to go home early, just get things spruced up and, go ahead and take off." And they both kind of nod their head, and he hangs up his apron, grabs his coat, and he walks out. Well, now we're in a coffee shop that I don't think it has maybe 12 or 14 tables. It's very small, cozy, nice atmosphere. We sit down. There is a young gal with a coffee and a scone or something, some kind of little treat on a laptop. There's two older gentlemen at another table. There's three young guys at a table. There's three young gals at a table. And then two women about my age, probably in their 50s or early 60s, sitting. So pretty busy, in my opinion. For a coffee shop, there's 14 tables. We've got 5 or 6 tables that are used up. The guy says this. He goes outside. We see him in the window. He's just getting his car warmed up. We sit down with our coffee, and the gal he was talking to, she comes over to our table and says, "Guys, we're going to close up in about 15 minutes or so. So just FYI, but take your time. But we've got about 10 or 15 minutes." And then she literally went to all the tables to tell all of us to pack up and get out, and then people were still coming in, and we're sitting right by our table was close to the front counter, and now the other gal's telling folks that it's to go only now because they're getting ready to close. Wow. And I thought, that's not what he said. That's not even close.
They misinterpreted the boss, didn't they?
Yeah, it's like, and we wasted half of our meeting time, which was only 15 minutes now, talking about how this is why a lot of small businesses don't make it. Because if the owner's not going to be there, or the principal is not going to be there, you need to make sure that when you give crystal clear instruction, like he did, that they do it. Because, like you said, misunderstanding. It was pretty clear. What he said was pretty, like I said, he wasn't even gone yet, and she was coming in telling us to get out, to get ready to get out. And it's like, he didn't say clear out the way. He said, if it slows down and traffic kind of lays out, then, or if the dining room clears out and traffic slows down, you guys can go home a little early.
That's one of my pet peeves too, Jerry. If the sign on the wall says we're open till 8 o'clock, you need to have somebody there taking care of the customers until 8 o'clock.
Yep.
So that business owner you're talking about, maybe he shouldn't have said that.
Right.
Okay. Because if I wanted to come in at 7:59 to order a cup of coffee, I expect to get a good, solid cup of coffee, good service. Yep.
I don't disagree. We talk about that all the time, and that was kind of some of our discussion last night with that. It's like, boy, he and that's where we followed through, is like, should he have said, I get it, it's below zero, it's Minnesota, it's cold, it's late, you got two young gals behind the counter, but if any of that makes you uncomfortable as an owner, well, then you need to rethink the whole, if you want to, maybe you need winter hours, then that's fine. So from December to March, we're going to close at 6 o'clock instead of 8 o'clock or whatever, but then make a decision, be responsible. And if you think that's what's best for your business and your employees, then do that. But yeah, to just have that, and then, like I said, and he was still, I'm looking at this going, he's right there. I can see him out the window, and she's walking around telling us all that we've got 10 or 15 minutes left. It's like, and I didn't say anything, but I'm thinking, sweetheart, that's not what he said. That's not anywhere near, and you know what he said. You know this. You're just you're going to be starting your car as he's pulling out of the parking lot. This is not what, and like I said, when you have a small little space, if you have 100 tables and only 5 are being used, that might be a different story, I guess, if that's how you're going to choose to do that. But, Yeah, when you have 12 tables and 5 are being used, and
It's a pretty good number.
that's a pretty good number for a coffee shop at 6 o'clock at night, or
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that was, but yeah, I thought that's what we can't let happen when you're a small business owner. But no one loves your business as much as you do. I mean, just no one does. I mean, that's so rare to find that. So how long was your second bookstore with the coffee shop? How well was that a good experience?
It was a good experience. We were open for 5 years. Ever heard of a company called Amazon.com?
I have. I've stumbled across them once or twice.
Yeah, they came in, and Costco and Sam's Wholesale Club came in, and they were selling books at what we would pay for the books.
Sure.
Okay, so we started seeing business going down. We had the only coffee shop downtown for about 3.5 of those 5 years. And all of a sudden, there were 4 other coffee shops downtown. So I made a tough decision. We actually closed the business on December 24th. Okay, we had our big sale up until Christmas time. And then we let people know, hey, we're not coming back next year. So as a business owner, sometimes you have to make a decision to take a loss now.
Yep.
Or take a small loss now, or take a bigger loss later.
Right.
And it's hard to do. Sometimes we think we can throw a lot of money at it, and it's going to bounce back. It doesn't always happen that way.
No.
So.
No, Vegas counts on that.
Yes.
I mean, that's
Yes, they
that's
do.
it. Yeah, it's like one more hand. I'm going to win the next hand. We always talk about it as we sit here doing our podcast in a poker room.
At a poker table.
Yeah, at a poker table. We talk about that with the young guys when they play. It's like you can't win every hand. You just can't.
Yeah.
And poker is such a great analogy on life in sometimes, or small business.
Yeah, good point.
You can't win every hand. So you have to minimize your losses and you have to maximize your wins. When you see that, I mean, small town bookstore, coffee shop, you can't compete. You can't take on Costco and Amazon and Sam's Club. They're just, I mean, these guys are Goliaths, and that's the only reason they're Goliath is because every time one of you goes away, they gain another blip, they gain another notch. And
sometimes we think it's perception, but as a business owner, you really need to track stuff. Okay, track the number of books sold. We track the number of customers came through the door, how many meals we serve each day. And if you track it on a regular basis, you can start to see those trends.
Absolutely.
Instead of trending up, they start leveling off, then they start coming down. And that's when you really need to get serious. Am I in the right business?
Right.
Do I need to remodel? Do I need to bring in something different, something new? Or do I need to get out now while I still can?
Yep, that's exactly right. I'm in the process of that with a good friend of mine that has, again, a coffee shop with the desserts, and she wants to open a ramen shop in Rochester. And she was going to do this a couple of years ago, and then a big chain was coming to Rochester. Well, now that fell apart. So now we're back to no ramen shop in Rochester. And so kind of thinking, she was maybe thinking about converting the little coffee shop to the ramen shop. And, my thought was, well, the coffee shop isn't, uber successful as far as it's not bringing in a ton of money, but it pays for itself. She's not adding money to it. And you have walking traffic and you have clientele that's paying the bills. I was like, so ramen is soup. It's not that you don't need a full kitchen. And she has 3 other full kitchen restaurants in Rochester. So it's like, so the making of this, you can bring it there following health codes, and you can have your NSF warmers to keep that going. And so you can keep your coffee shop and your desserts, add the ramen to it. You're just going to bring in a little more clientele without any real significant expense. Change the name, but because again, it's not a destination. We're talking about the walking traffic. And so her and I, actually we had lunch yesterday, and talking about that to see if that kind of throw it at the wall, see if it sticks, but she's really like it. She already met with we had talked a couple weeks ago. Then we met yesterday. She's already talked with the health department on, can we do it that way? And they're like, yep, because her other kitchens are inspected and they're legitimate restaurant kitchens in Rochester. And so, so I don't know if she's going to do it or not. She's still kind of on the fence, but she's got some ideas and I think she likes it. So, Yeah. So kind of a neat twist, because just like you said, you got to watch those trends. It's like, let's keep this while it's there, but we hit the up, it's plateauing, and it's still not. It's not worth it. I mean, it really, when you look at what she's able to do with her other restaurants, this is nowhere near those kinds of numbers. So it's like, what can we do? Is there something we can do to get this over the hump?
I was always I would put together a nice business plan for every business I ever did. Okay, including a cash flow analysis. I need to know where the money's coming from. I haven't won the lottery yet.
Right.
It's going to happen.
Right.
Haven't won it yet here, but every business owner, I think, needs to have a business plan that they monitor on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And they need to have a worst case scenario and a best case scenario.
Yeah.
And then even one below the worst case scenario. Worst case scenario, because it could happen.
Absolutely.
Look at COVID and every business we've had out there the last
knock on wood.
Last
COVID,
3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's that motto? Ship happens?
Yes, right.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, and that's when we're taught, when friends bring me business ideas, it's always the same. They come in and going, well, if you're talking about a restaurant, well, we've got room for 87 seats. And our average meal price is $22. So if we can keep, if we can keep 80% or 80 seats or 80% of the seats filled, we keep that 65 seats filled, and we rotate every 45 minutes, and we average out our menu to a $22 meal. This is where we're at. I mean, and the expenses are way down here. I mean, we can't lose.
Sure you can.
And that's my answer to that. It's
sure
like,
you can.
I always say famous last words. Yeah, you can't lose. I was like, so what? I said, how many meals do you have to sell to meet the minimum? Not bring home any money, pay all the employees, pay the rent or the mortgage, the taxes, the cost of goods sold.
Break-even point, yeah.
Right. Where is your nut? Where is your break-even point? And, they'll say, well, this is all our expenses. I was like, okay, that's a number. That doesn't mean anything. How many meals, how much effort do you have to put in to make that number? And so then, they say that. I'm like, that, and hopefully it's a small amount of meals or small amount of business or books or whatever you're selling. But, that's, for me, I always don't start with what we can do. Start with what we have to do. And now, if you need to sell 35 seats rotated 4 times over the lunch hour or 3 times over the lunch hour and 4 times over the dinner rush, that's doable, of course. But what if you only do 20? How long can you, because like you said, haven't won the lottery yet, how long can you support that business if you only sell 20 instead of 35 or whatever your number is? And, and that everything, that's harsh.
It's true.
It's true. It's that you're not wrong. That is harsh. But I said, so many businesses are underfunded. And, I judge the success of my businesses not necessarily on how much money I'm bringing in from it, but how long I have to pay to keep them going. How when we start off, how long before I'm done putting money in? Because I can live with a break-even business for an amount of time. If I can, like I said, if we watch the trends and you see that you're going in the right direction, I'll deal with that as long as I'm not having to write the check. And so but again, that's a little cross-eyed view to take a look, but you have to know how long and what's the return on this. Am I just putting good money after bad? Or can we make this turn around?
It's pretty easy to manage your fixed expenses, but the variable expenses are the one that get you.
Yeah.
Advertising. Okay. Employee benefits. Labor costs.
Look at Minnesota.
State of Minnesota, they raise minimum wage.
Yeah.
Okay, if they raise the minimum wage, where's that money coming from?
Right. The consumer has to pay us more for our product or service to pay more. And now you look, Minnesota made it mandatory that if you work a regular 40-hour job full time, you're going to earn 48 hours of sick time a year. And I mean, there's a lot of businesses out there that don't offer sick time.
That's right.
And again, not to say that that's right or wrong, but if we're going to, 48 hours, that's 6 days of work. So that now you're talking, that's over a week. And now that business, you're giving that kind of carte blanche to not be there for 6 days, not be productive for 6 days, still get paid for that. So there is that's going to make an impact.
Yep.
You know, and whether you agree with it or you don't, that's not my position here is to defend it or criticize it. But now every employee, you just gave them another week's vacation plus a day. And that's
paid vacation.
Paid vacation,
Yes,
right?
not just
right.
vacation.
Yeah, not just correct, not just vacation. And I don't mean to say that everyone will abuse that, but
Some will.
some will.
Absolutely.
They will. And at the end of the day, it's still a matter of, you know, if you get towards the end of the year and you've got 4 or 5 sick days left and you don't feel great, do you take a day off because you can, versus being productive and earning? That's the struggle. And these are all things that now business owners have to deal with. And do we raise the price of our goods? Eventually, people quit buying them. I mean, money is a factor in the decision making process. So, yeah, it's there's so many things that you can't control.
Yep.
And you have to recognize that too and keep your sanity. But yeah, like you said before, am I in the right business? You know, sometimes you have to ask yourself that. You know, preferably before you've invested a life savings. So what was number 3? Let's move our way through the progression.
Okay. Number 3, we bought a franchise. Okay, it's called a pack mail franchise. It was a packaging and shipping company.
Okay.
That we had also in Quincy, Illinois. It was fun. Once again, my wife ran it. I had another job. We shipped all kinds of stuff. Cars, motorcycles.
Oh, wow.
Big stuff. And there's a little bit of risk when you're trying to pack up a motorcycle to ship it.
I bet.
So we had some challenges there, but it was a good business. We were doing well. And then that's when our daughters were killed while we were in that business. Okay. It was going well, but after they died, we decided to we actually sold it. More gave it away than sold it. We just didn't want to own the business after that.
Right.
But franchise, you're paying royalty fees.
Yeah.
An awful lot of them. You're not quite an entrepreneur because somebody else tells you what decisions you got to make.
Right.
Okay, they
Right.
tell you what to price and what to carry and what hours to be open.
Yeah.
It's still a business, sort of entrepreneurial, but more no than yes, I thought, Jerry.
I would agree. What I like to tell people is, you know, well, do you own a business or do you own a job?
Yeah.
I mean, that's we had that conversation at lunch today, you know, where you talk about, especially small business, will that business carry on without you? You know, that's the key to me. It's like, you know, if you have a side hustle or a full-time job, a full-time business that you're working, if you don't go to work tomorrow, does it affect the business? If it does, greatly, especially, or if you're just not open, if you're not there, you own a job. And there's nothing wrong with that. But recognize it.
Yep.
You know, recognize it, because that's where a lot of times too, you know, life happens, and all of a sudden you get I mean, your situation was horrible, horrible. But a lot of people will take just not a horrible situation, a less than desirable situation, make a mountain out of a molehill. And it ruins their day. It ruins their week. It's like, you may not be cut out to be an entrepreneur. And there's no shame in that either. You know, I mean, we all need employees. I've been employees in many places. You know, it's like, there's no shame in that. Get out there and be part of the solution, not part of the problem. But yeah, in small business, you need good employees, and that is so difficult right now. I listened to my dad talk about this when I was, 40 years ago. My dad talked about this, and I thought, if he tried to run a business today and see what the workforce is like, he wouldn't believe me. If he were still around to tell the story to, he wouldn't believe me. I thought, but where do we go from here? You know, I mean, I saw in Denver, they opened the first fully automated McDonald's. Not a single.
Oh, did they?
Yep, I saw that just within the last couple of days. Not a single employee. Drive-through and lobby, not a single employee. It's like, how does that? I get frustrated with self-checkout. I mean, I am old school. We went to Target this weekend and they had one person checking and a bunch of self-checkouts open and one person checking. And it was funny because you look, each self-checkout had a person or two in it. The one gal that was checking out, she must have had 7 or 8 people lined up behind. And nobody cares because the self-checkouts are there. Nobody cares if you're going to stand in line now. Where, I grew up in a time you work at a grocery store, you work at I worked at Kmart way back when I was in high school. And I tell you, they got more than 3 or 4 people in line. They were scrambling to get backup checkers, and that gal up front or guy up front, whatever. They were just scrambling to get somebody that could push buttons and check people out. And then Christmas, you'd have all of them open, and the people were lined up to the back of the store. And now it's just Amazon's busier. It's just FedEx. FedEx is hustling. Our FedEx driver, he gets a helper in December, so he has a runner. He pulls up, and a younger guy runs all the packages out, jumps back in the truck, and
drives on to the next one.
Yep. Yeah. And I thought, it's like, again, if I told my dad that, I always think of terms, and if I told my dad this, that our UPS or our FedEx guy has a helper, he'd be like, what? How can you not do? But I mean, look at what these guys. I'm not picking on the FedEx drivers. I don't want them to think that I'm picking on them, that they can't handle the job. But I mean, that many packages. That's not a thing we've had in the past.
And that's taking jobs away from these small businesses too.
It is. Absolutely it is.
It's scary. I can see a time in 20 years where we don't have stores, Jerry.
Yeah.
I hate to see it. I love to shop local.
Yep, me too.
I love to talk to the business owner.
Yep.
Or the guy fixing my car.
Yep.
Or the grocer.
Yeah.
But it's changing so fast. May not be here in 20 years.
Really fast. Yeah. I mean, now you're talking. And I don't know how long it's going to take to get rid of cash and just go all digital, and go all electric on the cars. In Minnesota, to be all electric in the cars, what a terrible idea.
Terrible idea.
They're going to have to get so much, and they will get better, of course, but they have to get so much better. I mean, like I said, this week we've been below zero. The first part of this week, it's only Tuesday, but still, that's not a great environment for an electric car. And yeah, so no, it's I don't know. It's a terrible situation we're in moving forward. It's scary. I shouldn't say it's terrible, but it's scary.
I was down in Des Moines here about 6 months ago, and I took my daughter to a Subway sandwich shop, and I paid cash, and the guy didn't know what to do. It was right on campus. They all pay with their debit cards.
Yep.
And I gave him a $50 bill, and he just didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
That's pretty scary.
It's painful watching people try to count back change. I mean, that, to me, growing up, that was such a basic skill, and to count back. And even now when they do it, you watch these folks, they'll pick up, they put money in their hand, they don't count it back to you. And you can see when they're doing the change side, if the actual coins, they just look at it and it's like, sometimes I just think they just throw some coins in their pocket, in their hand, and hand it to you. And it's like, there you go. And they read it off the receipt. It's like, that's not right. I mean, I'm not going to argue over a few cents, but point being, you see that confusion as you start digging in the coins, like, I don't know how to do this.
Old farts like you and I know how much change we're getting back.
Right.
Once that rings up there, we know how much money they're supposed to give us a lot quicker than they do.
Yeah. 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 It's so funny. When you look at that, I think, wow, how are you going to survive? And then the other thing I think is funny when, I won't mention names, but one of our daughters, Apple Watch, and get the face on it that looks like the face of a watch. Yeah. And they're like, well, that's useless. Because now you have to tell time. I'm like, and at the time, I'm thinking, you're like 17. What, and you couldn't use, when she was younger, you couldn't use terms like, 4:30, 4:45. It's like quarter after 4. She says,
what is that?
Yeah, she looks at me, she says, that's an odd time. Why is that an odd time? She goes, 25 minutes after 4. Why would you do? And I'm like, oh my God, quarter after 4. I didn't even put that together. I thought, well, I'm dumb. But I'm like, well, 25 minutes isn't a quarter of an hour. 25 minutes is a quarter. And she goes, 25 is a quarter. I'm like, of $1, yes. Of 100, yes. Not of an hour. It's 60 minutes an hour. A quarter of that is 15 minutes. And I just get this, like, ready for an argument. It's like, I'm just going to go in here. We're not going to talk about this. This is not what I'm going to pick my battles. I'm not having this discussion.
You're right. It's scary.
It is. It
It is
is.
scary.
Oh. Well, so we've got 2 businesses left,
Yep.
right? What?
Next one's a rental property.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah. My brother-in-law at the time loved to fix up houses, and I loved negotiate the deals and buy the
Sure.
houses and work with the clients and the tenants, that kind of stuff. So we put a little partnership together, and we had up to 15 houses at one time.
Oh, very nice.
Okay, and we slowly started selling them, and then he left my sister, and that sort of. I don't have any skills when it comes to fixing anything.
Sure.
I mean, I love the other part of the business, but didn't do that. So we got rid of that. It was.
Well, it gets expensive if you're going to pay for
Right.
service
Right.
on all the repairs. Yeah,
It was
absolutely.
good cash flow. It's a good cash flow business. I wouldn't recommend it. And I'm a real estate agent now too, but
Yep.
I wouldn't recommend it. And I try to talk people out of it.
Yeah.
And I share my story. And if they want to do it, that's great. But it's tough.
Yeah. We had some houses, and then when everything kind of went up, I mean, we bought our houses early 2008, 9, 10, or 10, 11 in there, so prices were low.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was, and then of course the last 5 years, prices have not been low, and we had a renter that wanted to buy one of the houses from us, and I really hadn't thought about it because of cash, like you said, good cash flow. There wasn't a lot to be done, but when I had to have things done, it cut into the cash flow. I mean, because I'm handy, but I didn't have a lot of time, so I was just, call my BNI network, and it's like, put these guys to work, get out here and get this fixed, get this done. And, 2 or 3 of those phone calls a month, it's like your cash flow is not there for that
sure.
month. And so then when she wanted to buy it I called a realtor friend of mine and I said, what's this house worth? What do you think? And she tells me, I was like, that's literally almost twice what we paid for it. And, we'd only held on to it for 8 years or something like that, 7 years. I said, it's almost twice what we paid for it. Obviously, we had put some improvements and money into the house, but we've been collecting rent on it for 8 years, and I'm like, what about the rest of them? And she's like, are you serious? Are you thinking? I was like, she goes, I have, buyers that want to just buy rental properties. They want income property. And I could probably get these all sold in a lump. I'm like, I'd rather you work for it, and I'd rather you sell them for what they're worth rather than giving somebody an awesome deal to sell them a lot. I'm not desperate, And we chatted, and pretty soon, next thing you know, it's like, here we go. It worked out really well. But yeah, I'm with you. It's like you get to that point where you're thinking, well, I need to hire a land management property management company. And again, everybody you hire, it's great to support the community, but that's less cash flow.
That's right.
And then you got to figure out, what are you gaining, and is it worth the risk? Because for every guy like me that just got lucky because the time we decided to get into it was a low point, and when we realized we should get out, it was a high point. You get lucky. Well, for every guy that gets lucky, there's that guy that is unlucky, that bought when it was high, collected some rent, sold when it was low, maybe still didn't lose anything, but he didn't make what he could have, or lost a lot. I mean, there's all those factors. That's all part of it. It's like a poker game. Again, back to that. Minimize your losses and maximize your gains, and hopefully you get lucky once in a while. But
in a poker game, you know what your stakes are. If you come with $100, you can lose $100. If you own a house, you can lose a heck of a lot more.
A lot more.
If they get destroyed or burned down or something.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
yeah,
I prefer poker. It's a lot less riskier.
Yes. If you lose your life's fortune in poker, it's your own fault.
That's right.
Yes. Wow. So what's next then after we do some rental property?
Yeah, that was when I told you my daughters were killed in 2003, and I'd always wanted to share my story because a lot of people don't know how to help someone who's grieving. They don't know what to say. They don't know what to do.
We say a lot of dumb things.
Say a lot of dumb things.
We do.
And some of the things we say are very hurtful and insensitive to the grievers.
Yeah.
So I made notes for all these years, and in 2000, about 3 years ago, I decided to write this book. Okay, I wrote the book. It took about 8 months from start to finish, which isn't bad.
Sure.
tried to figure out what to name the book.
Yeah.
So I went to see my old dad in Gibson City, Illinois. And as I was leaving, he was a big brute of a guy. And he gave me a bear hug, about squeezed the crap out of me. As I was driving home, I said, I'm going to name the book Hugs Help.
Yeah.
Because after Janelle named me killed, the hugs help so much. And it's really sharing the pain with somebody that's really hurting.
Yeah.
So I wrote the book. I learned, I'm not an author. I wrote the book here,
Sure.
but I'm not going to do any more.
Yeah.
I had a story to tell.
That was my next question, actually. I was going to ask if this is one of...
It's one of one.
One of one. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So I had a story to tell, a story to share. The book started selling very, very well, and people started asking me to come to talk to them, to their associations or the widowers group.
The book wasn't written to facilitate the public speaking.
Oh, not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all. I had no idea it was going to happen, but I kept getting a lot of requests. And so finally, about a year and a half ago, I joined the National Speaker Association, learned how to turn my speaking business into a business.
Sure.
And I've improved my skills. People are starting to pay me to talk to them. Not a lot.
Sure.
It's more about sharing the story, helping the people.
Right. That community effort.
But I got to pay the bills too.
Yep. Yep.
And so I did 65 presentations last year. I'm hoping to do another 60 or 70 this year.
Fantastic.
And I help a lot of people.
Well, and as we talked about when you showed up here tonight, you had spoke with friends of ours who lost an infant not that long ago, and spoke very highly of you. And we've had a tragedy of our own with a good friend we mentioned. So I bought another copy of the book for his mom, because I bought your book because when Christian passed, talking with his mom, all I could tell her was, I don't know what to say. I don't have any words. And I'm sure that wasn't comforting for her at all. And it was hard for me, because I always consider myself, we joked tonight, when you came in, well, Jerry doesn't like to talk. It's like, and it's a joke because I love to talk and I never stop. And then I get in that situation where it's probably the most important time to say something, and say something well, say something right.
And you don't know what to say.
And all I could say was, I don't know what to say. I don't have any words. And you give the hug. And so your hugs help mentality or idea, you're spot on. It's just, I hopefully this makes you feel good, because in that moment when we're having that conversation, that's what's going through my head is, I should have read Randy's book already. Honestly, that was like the one of the foremost things that I was thinking about, going, why didn't I take the time for that? Because you don't know when you're going to need those skills.
Yeah. I can summarize all my presentations into 2 words, Jerry. You don't have to know what to say. You don't have to know what to do. Just be there.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
That's all your friend wants. They want somebody to be there with them.
Yeah.
You can hug them. You can hold their hand. You don't have to say anything, because you can't fix grief.
No.
You can't fix death.
No.
All you can do is be a strong supporter of the person that's grieving. So just be there. I should name my book "Be There."
Right. That would have worked also. Absolutely. Well, and that's what Heather and I had talked about. I said, I don't know what to say. I really didn't. But the one thing I do know is, don't rationalize it. Don't try to sit in front of a grieving mother or a grieving sister or whoever, whatever the case is, and try to rationalize why this happened, or that it's going to be better going forward, or it's not. We've lost these people. Yep. It's such a tragedy. To say the least. And I was so, and that's when I called you that day. I was like, I need 2 copies, because I want one for her, and I want one for us to have at the house here.
Yep.
And Heather agreed. She's like, well, when you're done, just shuffle it over the other nightstand. She says, and so I can read it. So
Good.
Yep. Yep. And like I said, Herta had talked about you a bit, and I said, and I said, well, and he knew Adam and and Mallory, and that was and she's like, oh well, and she knew that you had done that, but she didn't know it was you, or and so, and I said, well, he has a book actually, and so we, like I say, had a long talk about that. So I don't want to read it. But I'm going to. I do want to read it, but I don't want to ever have to use those skills.
But you'll have to, Jerry.
But you have to. I'm 52.
Yep.
It's only going to become more common for me. At my age, where I didn't want to start with a year and a half old and a 20-year-old though. That's not where we should be starting this. But yeah, Heather and I had that conversation too. It's like at our age, it's just going to become more commonplace for us. So.
Yeah.
And again, these are the conversations we had talking about you and your book. Going, I told her, I said, I don't want to read it. I don't want to need those skills. I don't want to admit that I have to, But then, like I say, after Christian passed, this last few weeks has been hard to say the least. And it just and you don't want to say something insensitive. You don't the better place comments. It just. And I never thought about that until, listening to you talk a little bit. It's like, that's terrible. And we don't think it is. I mean, but we don't have everyone feels like we have to say something. And yeah, so for me, it was a matter of, I literally said, I don't have any words. But like you said, be there.
Just be there.
Yep, just be there. That's great advice. That is great advice. Well, our 45 minute presentation or episode is 54 minutes long so far. Would you do it again? The podcast. Would you be willing to come back sometime?
Oh, absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
And maybe we'll we'll do a little group episode next time. Do something like that too, and just kind of bring in some a little better discussion than just me. But in closing, obviously, as we've talked, Randy's an author. He's got a great book out there, and a professional speaker. So take a minute. You guys, we all know, or hopefully by this time, know that we have the talkbusinesswithjerry.com, where you can find Randy's information. We'll get some stuff out there on how to get his book, how to hire him for a speaking engagement, or how to refer him. Maybe not even hire him, but how to refer him, how to know what's a good referral for Randy. I need to start using that verbiage more, because not everybody's going to have the ability or the need to hire you.
Absolutely.
But they'll know someone that does. Yep. It's all about that referral. It's about having good advice for someone. Say the right things. Be there, right?
Be there, yeah.
So with that being said, talkbusinesswithjerry.com. You'll be able to find Randy there. But Randy, in closing, any last words and kind of tell folks how to get a hold of you, or what's a good referral for you?
Yeah, first of all, Jerry, this is a lot of fun.
Good, thank you.
Okay, if you're thinking about opening up a new business or starting a business, give it a lot of good consideration.
Yeah.
Okay, sometimes the passion is there, but the practicality is not there.
Right.
So make a good decision. Seek out some help if you need to.
Yep.
Okay. Plug my business. The book is called Hugs Help. It's available on Amazon.com. You can go to my website at www.hugshelp.org. I am a professional speaker. I speak to businesses of all size, any type of business association, churches, civic organizations, pretty much anybody and everybody, because we all need to understand better how to help those who are grieving.
Yeah.
And I can share some pretty good thoughts with you, because unfortunately, I am the expert.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks again, Jerry.
You're welcome, Randy. Thank you for coming. Everybody, have a great night. We'll see you next time.